Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
Todd 11.
Todd 11.
Todd and Craig, good to hear you guys.
Todd 11.
This is Attorney Todd L. Levitt.
Honestly, you could not be any more spot on.
Now, from the Black Diamond Group mothership in the studios of 98.5 UPS, the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm yours truly, Attorney Todd L. Levitt, broadcasting and podcasting in the middle of Mitten in the Black Diamond Group mothership in a beautiful green nutrient field, folks, with my good friend Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle. He's the dankiest dank human I know, the gassiest human I know. The water is wet. The sky is blue. Last week he was watching Caitlin Clark from Indiana, as well as you. Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle. How you doing, Craig?
Todd, I am fan-flippin-tastic. How are you?
Well, I could not be better. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes.
To all the moms out there, all the grandmothers, the aunts, and the fathers and grandfathers and uncles and older brothers and just individuals who have had to step in and be a mother figure for young people around the world.
So as I like to say, happy Mother's Day to all you mother fathers out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, totally get it.
There's a lot of single fathers, grandfathers, uncles, siblings who raise their own siblings and for many reasons have had to do so. A lot of them sad reasons. And happy Mother's Day to my mother, Carol, 85 years strong, to Jen, and all the moms out there.
And of course, come Father's Day, we'll be talking about the single moms who had to step up and be a father as well, like your mom did. So
yeah, plentiful. We opened up the show with Winger, Craig. And there's no correlation between Mother's Day and Winger. No. I'm sure Winger they all had moms, but I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah, everybody had a mom.
Everybody had a mom.
Yes. Everyone had a mom. Kip Winger.
Yeah. How do you like that song?
That's one of the Winger songs I always forget about. I always remember, I always think of, there's guys who have great, Van Halen is a great last name to make for the name of a band. Same as Winger. Kip Winger is the guy's name, and he named the band Winger. That's a great name. And he had that hair. Remember all that hair?
A lot of hair. Craig,
Yeah.
But your name now is carrying on strong with the Craig Squirrel instead of the Charlie Horse.
Yeah,
in
that's
place of
weird.
Charlie Horse last week,
Yeah.
we created the Craig Squirrel.
Yeah.
But we have a huge show, Craig. Huge show for Mother's Day.
Big show, big show.
From Levitt Law Firm, a.k.a. yours truly, attorney Nicholas H. Klaus will once again be joining us in the mothership. And he's got some constitutional issues to talk about, as well as popcorn, dancing, theater, music, and so much more. But I have a complaint. I think I have a universal complaint that most of us, if not all of us, can relate to.
That's usually your complaints. They're usually pretty solid in that department.
You ready for it?
Born ready.
Are you hydrated?
I'm hydrated and ready to go.
Are you fueled?
I am pumped up and ready to rock.
Do you need fuel? Do you need fire? Do you need more that you desire?
Okay, what song is that from?
Metallica. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me more.
Gotcha. No, I'm
Sorry,
good to go.
James.
I'm
Sorry, guys. Sorry, Lars. That was horrible imitation.
Thank God they'll never hear it.
I love Metallica. So
I'm good to go. What's your complaint?
here it is. So why is it when, if you have, and this is not in every case, but if and we've all done this, you make a doctor's appointment, you schedule a doctor's appointment. We've all done that, right?
Yep.
And there are a lot of doctor offices out there that if you literally are a minute late, they're going to cancel your appointment. Even if you show up, you're a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes late, you can call them and say, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. Yeah, I'm a minute late. No, if you are not there at 10 a.m., and I would say at least 50% or more of these offices across the board, they're canceling your appointment. In some cases, you're going to have to pay for that office visit.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
But then why is it if you show up at 5 to 10 for a 10 o'clock appointment, they make you sit there for an hour and a half before they take you in the back. And then you get in the back and you're waiting another half an hour. I think there should be some laws out there where the person should be compensated for his or her time, for having to sit there for that amount of time. Because if you miss that appointment by 5 minutes, they could charge you, they'll do that, which they shouldn't, or they'll reschedule your appointment. But if you get there early, you're sitting there for an hour. I mean, literally. Do you feel me on that one?
I totally do. Know exactly what you're saying.
And look, we need doctors. We love the doctors. We love the nurses, the staff. I mean, they work hard. They work long hours. They put up with a lot of stuff. I couldn't do that. I don't understand that issue, though. I really don't.
Well, and what I don't understand is because you would think a doctor's office would market that as, hey, we're not going to do what they do at other places. We'll get you in and on time, or it's a guarantee. Much like Domino's back in the day, 30 minutes or less.
Yeah, I was that driver, remember?
Yeah. Well, how about this? You go to the doctor's office, if we don't get you in within 30 minutes of your scheduled time, the appointment's free. How about that? That'll keep them on time.
I will say this.
That'll keep them on time.
Here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, we have, I believe it's McLaren Hospital. They do a great job. If you're sick, you don't feel good, you walk in towards the emergency. Honestly, that's a 5-star. We also have My Michigan over there. It's part of University of Michigan over by the movie theater. Gosh, I wish I knew the name of the hospital. They do a fantastic job as well. I mean, the doctors, the staff. So, look, a lot of people are sick. It's that time of the year. They do their job. But I'm talking about some of these, not those type of facilities. A lot of times there's people back there that are very sick. They're ill. They're brought by ambulance, first responders. And granted, in fairness, they need more attention than, some of us who are just going in there for a common cold. Is that fair?
Agreed. Yep.
And because who knows, we may be in that position. Look, I've done an endo on my bike. I tore my ribs up. I got taken back right away ahead of a lot of people, and given x-rays and this and that. So I get it. But I'm talking specifically about a doctor's office. So Jen and I were driving down the highway last week, 127, and, being careful. A lot of great construction workers out there. Please be sure to slow down, follow all the laws when it comes to construction workers.
It's that time of year.
Yeah, and we were trying to get downstate to Novi, and it looked as if we were going to be 5 minutes late. So I said, you better call. We called up, and they said, you know what? 5 minutes is not good. We're going to have to reschedule you. And we were already, 75% there. And, come on, man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. You should get a pass if you call. If you call before your appointment and say, look, I'm running a little late, they should hold it, especially if you're just going to sit there for another hour waiting anyway. What does it matter if you get there 5 minutes late and you wait for 55 minutes as opposed to getting there on time and wait for an hour?
Yeah, another issue I have with the medical community. Look, again, we need our doctors. Some of my best friends literally are physicians. And some of the PAs out there, the nurses, everybody does such a great job. I'm just talking about the industry as a whole. And I've been critical of the legal industry time and time again on this show for years, folks. So if you're just tuning in for the first time and you're in the medical field, I'm not knocking you individually, how hard you all work. I'm just talking in generality here. In general, I don't know where I'm trying to use. Nick will help me on this when he comes on.
Yeah.
He's very articulate in that sense.
Yes, he is.
But I don't know where it starts and where it ends. But, the other issue is you have insurance companies who are determining, what type of procedures can and cannot be given to patients, based on pre-existing injuries. I mean, you have somebody sitting somewhere who's taking a phone call who may or may not be a physician or has any type of medical experience, and they're making a life and death determination whether or not a patient should be given a certain procedure or not. I mean, does that not happen, Craig?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
But look, here's something else that I want to say. I've represented members of the medical community, doctors, nurses, nothing but love and respect for them, right, Craig?
Sure, of course.
But the last doctor who made an appointment, who got caught drinking and driving, that called my office, she canceled and then she rescheduled. And then on a date and time in which she was supposed to be at my office at 8:15 in the morning, which is way too early for me after 30 years to have to be there, which I was there, she never called to cancel. And when we contacted her to confirm her appointment, she never answered our call, and we never heard from her. So,
that's weird.
So like, give me a break. If we showed up at her office, not only would she charge us, but, she'd make us wait 2 hours.
I hope you charged her.
No, we didn't, because we don't do that. We're lawyers.
Well, there you go.
We're not just litigators, we're advocators. But hey, back to Winger, by the way. That goes out to a really good friend of mine.
Okay.
Mr. Michael, I call him Mike Bush. Great man. Good friend of mine. Right there at Lakeside Motorsports in Mecosta County.
Okay.
Mike is a dear friend of mine. He's over there supervising the service and parts department at Lakeside. He does so much more. And all the men and women over there at Lakeside, from Ryan to Nick to Brooke, who sits up front, to Neil. We all love Neil over there. But big shout out to Lakeside Motorsports, my good friend Mike. So much appreciate you as a friend and all you do for the public over there who is looking to have some fun in the great outdoors.
There you go.
I wanted to send that winger out to my good friend Mike.
Awesome. We've got to take a break.
No, come on, Craig.
We do
because I'm 2 minutes late to start the show today.
That's
You're going to
exactly
make me take a break? Come on.
I could charge you.
Oh boy, come on. Wait, who's coming on the show?
That would be attorney Nicholas H. Klaus.
And you know what he's going to be talking about?
He's going to be talking about constitutional.
Right to a speedy trial.
There you go. And also, we had some weather in the Michigan area. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Your hometown.
Yeah, I know. Big deal. We'll talk about that coming back on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Disney World. This is attorney Todd L. Levitt here to tell you about my favorite one and only, the only one I go to, M66 Cannabis Company, recreational dispensary right here in the great state of Michigan, central northern Michigan, located at 3023 20 Mile Road, Beaverton, Michigan, between Big Rapids and Mount Pleasant, Michigan. M66 Cannabis Company is frickin' fantastic, folks, from pipes to edibles to flower, 24 different strains. The staff, all locally hired, general manager, knowledgeable, community-oriented, family-owned. Be sure to check out M66 Cannabis Company, Beaverton, Michigan.
Hey, this is Mike Messina, general manager at M66 Cannabis Company out of Barrington, Michigan, off of M66. And I want to personally invite you down to M66 Cannabis Company to come peruse our wide selection of different products, 18 different strains of flower, 29 different types of cartridges, and so much more. We've got everything that you could possibly need in a very well-trained and compassionate staff there to help you find exactly what you're looking for.
That's M66 Cannabis Company, located at 3023 20 Mile Road. That's 3023 20 Mile Road. My favorite recreational dispensary here in Michigan. Be sure to stop in and tell the folks when you get there you heard it right here on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Welcome back to the Todd and Levitt Law Show. Happy Mother's Day. And turning it and burning it, destroying it with Winger. And that goes out to my good friend Craig Russell and Nick Klaus, the two of you.
And Nick Klaus is in the house.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, Nick?
How's it going, guys? Good. Great.
Attorney Nick
Great
Klaus, Craig.
Yes, Attorney Nick Klaus from the
Levitt Law Firm, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. He's doing such a great job, too. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. If I may, though, in the spirit of Mother's Day, I'm headed over to my mom's after we wrap up today. And I want to give a big shout out to my mom, Marsha. I would never call her Marsha, but that's her name. And also my son's mother, Jamie. She's a great mom as well. So big shout outs to them on their day today. My son is with his mom today, so.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to go be with my mom, so, it all works out.
All right.
But, and shout out to the grandma. She's a grandma, obviously, too. So just wanted to join in that praise. But, guys, I was listening to the earlier segment, of course, and I wanted to add my 2 cents on the issue of having to wait in these doctors that will make you wait all day or then charge you, blah, 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 blah. So, I believe that we should send bills when anybody should send a bill when that happens. Okay. I don't care where you work, what you do for a living. You get paid something if you're making, if you're working. So quantify that time and send them a bill. See what they do. I once did that to a very, very large online marketplace retailer that I will not say the name of right now, but it's the big one, right? And eventually I ended up getting $500 for my troubles because I pointed out how much time it had taken me to fix the order, and they just gave me $500. So advocate for yourself, people.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we love our doctors and nurses and PAs and all the assistants, the clerks, and people that answer the phones, people that, have to contact insurance companies and the billers. But I don't know as an industry overall who makes that decision. If it's a big medical facility, that's statewide or nationwide. But, we were on the way down to an appointment last week. I looked as if we were running 5 minutes late, and they canceled on us. And we were already 75% of the way there. And I guarantee you, had we gotten there 10 minutes early, we would have sat in that lobby for an hour and a half, and then in the back room, after they take some notes on blood pressure, we'd be sitting there for another 45 minutes.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, where's the fairness in that? I'm just saying. So that's my complaint of the millennia here. But
well, that's a good segue into the segment insofar as we're dealing with timeliness and moving things along in a speedy way. I came to talk
in regards
about
to what,
trials.
Klaus attorney?
Yeah. What is that? Well, this is a good segue.
What are you talking about?
Look at him.
Well, thank you.
Set it up.
That would be the Sixth Amendment and the speedy trial right, which we all have. Everyone that's in this country has a right to a speedy trial. And it's important.
All right, let me ask you a question. Well, let me ask you a question here.
Sure.
In regards to speedy trial. Because I've having practiced for 30 years, and I'm so honored that you, Nick, Klaus, work now at Levitt Law Firm in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, together with Jenna, Ashley, Samantha. Everybody does such a great job. Clients love you, and we're just so stoked to have you and honored. You do such a great job. So, and if people call our office, there's a good chance they're going to speak with you, and you'll end up representing them on our behalf.
True.
But here's my question.
Yeah.
So if somebody is being investigated, and, we've all had those situations representing clients as lawyers, you get a call and say, listen, I was just contacted. I was investigated. They didn't have to cooperate. They didn't know that. They'll say to me, when does a prosecutor have to bring charges or not bring charges? And will I ever find out? Now, that's my first question. Is that where a speedy trial falls into place under the Sixth Amendment? Or is it once you are arrested, arraigned, is that when the speedy trial triggers? So is it pre-arraignment arrest, or when does that start?
It's triggered upon arrest. That's what triggers the clock, so to speak, when we're talking about speedy trial rights. So as soon as you're arrested, that the clock starts ticking, and then it gets a little more nuanced as to when it's been too long. But suppose you get away, you pay your bond or whatever. The cops let you go at some point, and you're out, you're doing your thing, and years go by, and then you get something in the mail that says, "Guess what? Prosecutor decided to charge this case." Well, you might have good issues on speedy trial, right? Because
okay, but you got to explain it to the audience. Go to the beginning. Take the audience step by step through what you just said. Give us an example of a case where somebody gets arrested, and 2 years later, the prosecutor now is bringing forth charges. Like, give us an example of that.
Well, suppose, and
was his name Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle? I'm just asking.
No.
Well, I would never share, or
exactly
my privilege. So that's also a right. But in any case, let's suppose everything, we work in hypotheticals. You get a person gets stopped for, I don't know, DUI or OWI or what have you. And everyone does their part. You answer questions to the police. You give a PBT, and then maybe they want to do a blood draw, so they arrest you and take your blood, and then that's it, right? You are sent on your way. There's no ticket, no nothing, right? Because you were clean. But let's suppose they send that blood out. You have no idea. And it comes back and it shows something. Maybe it's a prescription that was valid, but it's a controlled substance nonetheless. And then another few years passes, and then eventually somebody in whatever prosecutor's office picks it up and says, "Oh, we're gonna actually charge this person."
Well, why would it have taken 2 years from the time the person was in custody and, let's say, they submitted to a blood draw, which they should. Don't ever refuse a blood draw based on alcohol or any other controlled substance, because in Michigan, folks, you're going to lose your driving privileges for a year, irregardless of whether or not you're charged on the underlying case. It's called an implied consent suspension. But so what typically happens, Nick? Because, I know as a lawyer, but for the audience, the person who consented to the blood draw, does this person bond out? Or were they just waiting to hear if, the trooper or whomever, and we love our troopers, we're going to send in information results to the prosecutor to determine if charges should be brought forth. So what's the scenario here?
That's a good question, because it could be any number of things. And if I can get a little in the weeds on it, I want to talk about a great Supreme Court case that says that it's known as the Wingo case, somewhat like Winger. But anyway, Wingo, Barker v. Wingo, nice. Wingo v. Barker. And basically what the court said, the Supreme Court said that the defendant gets, because they're innocent, right, until they're proven guilty, the defendant has no obligation to bring themselves to court. That's all on the court and the prosecutor. So as it relates to fault in this 2-year scenario where time goes on for 2 years, it's ultimately on the prosecutor to explain what that delay was about. Okay.
How could you disagree with that at all?
Right. I mean, it's basic logic. And there can be a number of reasons for delay. Maybe the investigation just took that long. Maybe it took that long to get test results, or maybe they're just busy. But depending on
the citizen should not have to be penalized or have his or her constitutional rights stomped upon because somebody's busy somewhere and can't organize or effectuate their job, if that's even a word. The citizen should not have to be penalized under those circumstances.
That's right. That's not so different than, canceling the appointment or what have you. But as you were talking about earlier, but in any case, somebody, we had a case recently where, somebody didn't find out that they had been charged until they went and applied for a job. They did a background check and there's this bench warrant, and they had no idea. Nobody bothered they had no notice of it. And
let me ask this: whose job is it if somebody's investigated, and placed under arrest due to a traffic stop? They bond out. A blood draw was taken. I mean, who is the prosecutor or the state under an obligation to notify the individual that a warrant and charges have been issued?
Yes.
Because most people call our office, and this happens all the time. They get pulled over or they go for a job interview, and they're told at that time, based on a background check, they call us, Nick, you and I, and say, I had no idea I had a warrant. That happened a year ago. That happened 6 months ago. Nobody ever told me.
Right. So what's interesting about that, to me at least, is yes, their due process, the 14th Amendment, as well as others, the Fifth Amendment has a due process clause, dictate that we all are entitled to notice. And theoretically, that's what the arraignment is for, right? The arraignment is, the purpose of that is to formally tell the defendant that, hey, this is what you're charged with and this is what's going down. And so the speedy trial right kind of works in tandem with all that. And at your arraignment, typically, the courts will tell you, you're entitled. You have a right to a trial and a speedy trial. And the reason for that, fellas, which I know you guys already know this, but for our listeners, the reason for that is so that people aren't walking around for years with the weight of the state hanging over their head. You have a right to get that done, to get past it. Whether you prove out to be innocent or guilty, you got a right to get it behind you. And that's a basic freedom that we all are supposed to be able to enjoy. And it's explicit in the Constitution, which I think is really interesting. For instance, right to privacy, that's not explicit in the Constitution, but it's been interpreted as such. But the speedy trial right, boom, right there, Sixth Amendment.
And that has to be because of the way the early Americans were persecuted by the British, who just threw people into jail and whenever they felt like it, and they didn't have to explain themselves or have to do anything. They wanted to change that. That's what a lot of the amendments are, direct reflections of things that were going on in England at the time, and the people wanted to get away from that persecution. They came here and said, we're not going to, that's why we don't have a king. That's why we have a president who has to be elected. That's why, exactly, et cetera, et cetera. But
it's a beautiful
What's
thing.
the remedy
when
if you're not given a speedy trial? Like, how long is too long? If somebody gets arrested, they bond out, the arraignment takes place, and then, look, in fairness to the courts out there, and I can honestly say with all the courts that we practice in central northern Michigan, big shout out to Judge Hunter up in Gaylord. I appeared once again in front of Judge Hunter. He does Gaylord, also Crawford County. He does such a professional judge with such a brilliant legal mind. And I'm not brown-nosing. Big shout out to Michael Rales, the prosecutor up there also in Gaylord. I just appreciate as an attorney somebody who's able to interpret the law, whether I agree with the outcome or not, but somebody who's just, very schooled and learned in law, such as Judge Van Alst, both Judge Van Alst over there in Wexford County, Judge Farrell, so many great judges, Noggle, Judge Black, so many great judges all over the place.
So the remedy...
Judge Hovey does a great job, too, by the way, up there in Clare County.
The remedy, Todd, is dismissal, but you got to be able to show some kind of prejudice, right? That means that the client, the defendant, has in some way they're worse off for the delay.
How about but here's the issue I have. Well, one, if it's a year, 2 years, a year and a half, the mental anguish that an individual goes through waiting for a case to go to trial. Would you agree with me, Nick? Not to mention the stress on his or her family.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane what they go through. And for the system, just think of all the people wrongfully incarcerated. But, for the system to, at no fault of the person going, on the other end, to delay that is just wrong. There should be some kind of relief, not just a dismissal. There should be some kind of compensation to assure that this person's rights never get violated again.
Yeah, and as well compensated for whatever they've had to deal with. I mean, suppose they were sitting in jail for that period of time. I mean, isn't that a wrongful conviction then? I mean,
yeah.
And in all reality, you're almost in a prison of your own mind, having to deal with that stress of everything. You might as well be sitting in jail because you have to sit there, go every day, when is this going to end?
Nick, when we come back from break, though, explain why. We got to go to break, but why don't you explain a factual scenario again, why this would take place? Is it because information got lost? Because after someone is placed under arrest or investigated, the officer in charge takes that information at some point and passes it on to the prosecutor's office to make a determination as to what charges, if any, should be brought forth.
Right.
So let's talk about that when we come back from break. This is attorney Todd L. Levitt here to tell you about my favorite one and only, the only one I go to, M66 Cannabis Company, recreational dispensary right here in the great state of Michigan, central northern Michigan, located at 3023 20 Mile Road, Beaverton, Michigan, between Big Rapids and Mount Pleasant, Michigan. M66 Cannabis Company is frickin' fantastic, folks, from pipes to edibles to flower, 24 different strains. The staff, all locally hired, general manager, knowledgeable, community-oriented, family-owned. Be sure to check out M66 Cannabis Company, Beaverton, Michigan.
Hey, this is Mike Messina, general manager at M66 Cannabis Company out of Barrington, Michigan, off of M66. And I want to personally invite you down to M66 Cannabis Company to come peruse our wide selection of different products, 18 different strains of flower, 29 different types of cartridges, and so much more. We've got everything that you could possibly need and a very well-trained and compassionate staff there to help you find exactly what you're looking for.
That's M66 Cannabis Company, located at 3023 20 Mile Road. That's 3023 20 Mile Road. My favorite recreational dispensary here in Michigan. Be sure to stop in and tell the folks when you get there you heard it right here on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, turning it and burning it with Winger, Kip, and the boys.
Yeah, baby.
Down incognito. And attorney Nicholas H. Klaus is on with us from Levitt Law Firm. Hello, Nick.
Hey there. Go ahead.
No, you go right ahead. You're ready to jump
going
in.
Right at it.
Yeah.
I get fired up about
go
this.
for it. I love it.
Go for it.
I get fired up about the speedy trial right. You got to be speedy. So anyway, so here's a situation that we ran into in answer to your question, Todd. What's a factual scenario? So here's a factual scenario. You're litigating a case, and the prosecutor's office or whatever, the docket's slow, but they file a bunch of motions that slows things down because you gotta, people are entitled to time to respond to those motions, all kinds of things. You're sending stuff out to crime labs. You're getting expert witnesses, all these things. So when you make your speedy trial claim, the court's going to look at who caused the delays. Okay, and this is, I think, is what's answering your question. Is it the prosecutor's motion that was filed? So let's suppose it was. That's 2 weeks chargeable to the prosecution. And you literally have to go through this and calculate all the days and times and basically who owes what, Yeah,
but how long does it, and again, I know the answer to this, but how long does it, let's say somebody's charged with drinking and driving.
Sure.
Okay. Drinking and driving, no accident, nobody got hurt, blood was drawn. The officer in charge sends it to the prosecutor's office. Person is placed under arrest. They bond out. They're arraigned. The arraignment's waived. Now, how, and we're talking Michigan law here. I mean, in this case, this is heard all over the world, but what happens? What's the time period that case has to be resolved, and who is the pressure on? Is it the prosecutor on behalf of the government that is under the time constraints to, who's the pressure under here?
The pressure's on both the court and the prosecutor. And after 6 months, if you don't have finality to the case, if the case isn't done in 6 months, the court is, under the law of Michigan, the court is obligated to conduct an investigation as to the reasons for the delay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that triggers an investigation, which means the defendant kind of gets a free whack at things at 6 months. Now,
after 6 months, but what if the parties are, let's say, what if the defendant is hospitalized or some of the witnesses can't come forward? I mean, again, you talked about a time frame and who's it attributed to, but what if both parties agree and the defendant waived his or her right to a speedy trial, so it goes on for 6 months? Does, by Michigan law, that trigger an investigation still?
I would argue,
how's that for putting you on the spot there, Mr. Nicholas?
I would argue that, yes, absolutely, it still triggers an investigation. However, it's not advisable to bring that motion because you're going to lose it. So you're saying the defense has to bring that motion? Yeah, well, of course. Yeah.
But why would you if you're getting along with you're having good negotiations? Because there are reasons that, look, as defense attorneys, we delay things all the time to try to gain advantage, or not necessarily every time, but we delay things. Maybe we're going on vacation, or the defendant. I've had so many men and women who work out of state. They're directional drillers. They work all these lines. Sure. They put their lives at risk. You're going from storm to storm, cleaning up these huge devastated areas. We got to talk about that, Craig, because your hometown of Portage got hit by a tornado.
Yeah, we do.
But my point is, often we ask for the delay.
That's right. That's right.
And a defendant, and often we'll talk with defendants and say, listen, we need time to slow things down to investigate this.
That's right. And that's advisable in those situations, for sure.
But what you're referring to under the Constitution, your right to a speedy trial, is when, at no fault of the defendant or the defense attorney's direction, the people on behalf of the state of Michigan or whatever state you live in, the delay is due to unforeseen circumstances that the defense doesn't know about. And at that point in time, the defense attorney is bringing a motion to dismiss based on lack of speedy trial?
That's right. That's right. And at 18 months, it is what we call a per se violation of the speedy trial right.
Which
because
is what
even though
for the
it's
public?
Well, that means that it just is. It must be so. Per se means it is for sure. Like there's no question about it. A violation is there after 18 months. That said, that doesn't necessarily mean that it should be dismissed because, like Todd was saying, maybe, defense and prosecutor were working together to delay the case because that's what suited the purposes of that particular case.
Are there a lot of those?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of those cases get tossed because of taking too long?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I've done it. I've gotten them tossed for that reason.
What was the reason for the delay when you got those cases tossed?
Enough of it was a delay owing to the prosecution. This was years ago, but with the motion practice, not being available on certain dates, things like that. Like they just couldn't get their staff there or whatever. And that was a trial that took 2.5 years, a misdemeanor case that we got dismissed on speedy trial grounds. We had 2 trials in that case. And eventually one on a speedy trial motion. But there was recently a case in Michigan where a man sat in jail for 4.5 years and he lost his speedy trial motion. It was a recent Court of Appeals case. So, it's really fact specific. It really depends on the unique facts of that case.
How do you make a decision as a judge having someone sit in prison for 4.5 years and they were never, did he or she not have his or her day in court? Or did they just, if it was the court or prosecutors doing, that case should have been thrown out.
Right. If all of that would have been chargeable to the prosecutor or the court, then it would have been thrown out. It wasn't, I think, and I don't know all the facts of this case off the top of my head. I think the defendant at one point fired a couple of their attorneys. That caused delay, and all those things, those owed to the defendant, so to speak. They were, he was to blame, for lack of a better term, for those delays. So it didn't count against the prosecutor when they were calculating the actual delay. So maybe it caught, just as an example, perhaps he fired his attorney. It took 3 months for the next attorney to get up to speed. Well, those 3 months count against the defendant for the purposes of speedy trial, if that makes sense. So
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing I don't like about the legal system is, and I don't run into this too often, is where, your client has a right to a trial, has a right to call witnesses on his or her own behalf. And as a lawyer, you have a right to advocate, litigate, and fight vigorously on behalf of your client. And, throughout my 30 years, you'll run into a prosecutor or a prosecutor's office that has a practice of almost penalizing the negotiations, meaning if there's a negotiated plea on the table, but yet you decide, hey, my client wants to take this to a jury, they'll try to punish the defendant. Have you seen that, Nick? When I say punish, add charges, amend counts,
penalize.
Oh, sure.
They'll do. And look, can they do that? Yes. But I just think that, look, if a client wants to exercise his or her rights, once in a while you run across a prosecutor who takes it personally and then tries to, I don't agree with it ethically, what they try to do. They try to enhance the charges or threaten to amend things. And I just don't think that's proper, because if you were going to do that, you should have done it in the very offset when you charged my client in the first place.
Yeah, they can amend their complaint against the defendant all the way up till when they rest their case at trial. Right. It's even after the jury has been seated.
But do you feel me on what I'm referring to? You've seen this.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And, big shout out to the prosecutors that don't do that. I've tried to bring motions and have based upon Fourth Amendment grounds on the eve of trial. And, Corey Wiggins, for example, was like, hey, this is a constitutional issue. We got to litigate this. This is important. Respecting the rights of the defendant. Didn't try to add charges, didn't try to whack them with anything, or punish them, for running a motion late in the game. But yeah, I've absolutely seen that. And that's why, it's kind of a dance. If you're having good negotiations, then maybe you don't need to bring that motion.
Right. And I'm not referring to any prosecutors in central northern Michigan. You got to remember, I worked in Detroit area for 12 years. I got nothing but love and respect for everyone we practice with. One other thing, guys, that really ticks me off is when you negotiate a deal with the prosecutor, you go before the judge and the judge says, no, I'm not going to accept this. I feel legally that there's something wrong with that legally and constitutionally because the prosecutor represents the people of the state and county in which he and she is elected, and they represent the complaining witnesses and so on and so forth. Where does a judge have the authority to do that, Nick? Because I've seen it done when I worked in Oakland County, and I have seen it done up here in central northern Michigan at least one time.
Yeah, I've seen it happen a few times myself, and it's frustrating when that happens.
Do they have legal? I don't believe they have the legal authority to do that. Maybe a judge is going to tell me otherwise.
Well, I think it is, of course, arguable, and I'm happy to argue. But I think, unfortunately, they do. And there's a couple different lines of cases. Killebrew is the one that I'm thinking of first.
People v. Cobb? What about People v. Cobb?
Well, and so those are the two. And the important difference in those two cases is that in a Killebrew agreement, so to speak, that's an agreement between the prosecutor, the people, as Todd pointed out, and the defendant, that this is what we're going to take before the court.
Yeah, but you're referring to if the judge cannot accept it at the time of sentencing. I'm talking about when you have a plea agreement and you go discuss with the judge and the judge tells the parties even before a plea takes place, I'm not going to accept that plea. You need to go rework it. That's the judge usurping his or her authority into the negotiations, and that's not their role.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when judges start playing lawyer, you get to bad outcomes. For the reasons you pointed out, Todd, that the prosecutor is elected to represent the people of that county. They're a local for all intents and purposes. They got their ear to the grindstone, to the street, so to speak. They know what the people want. So they're best suited to negotiate on behalf of the people, not the judge. The judge is there just to call balls and strikes.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but how often, at least I've seen it, where judges, and I'm not being specific, but I've seen it, again, I've done this for a long time. I've worked all over the state of Michigan, including, all the major counties in Metro Detroit. And I saw it all the time down there where a judge would say, okay, do you have a plea agreement? What is it? Nah, you approach the bench. I'm not going to accept this. And then you have to go rework it. I just think that is wrong on every level.
Well, I would point out, too, that if it causes another hearing, say, suppose you got to come back to court 2 weeks later because you got to go negotiate a new deal, that would implicate your speedy trial right. Just saying.
Well, it's not just that, but I'm saying the judge isn't happy with what the prosecutor agreed to because he or she feels it's too lenient. That's not their call. I mean, the judge can make the decision at sentencing, how to go in regards to any jail time, and other types of penalties. But when it comes to the negotiations, I just feel judges need to stay and should stay out of it. It's not their role. And I don't know of any case law. I mean, I haven't researched it that gives them that authority to sit there and negotiate pleas with prosecutors and defense attorneys. I mean, you do have trial conferences and pretrial conferences right prior to going to trial where the judge will come in and want to know what the issues are. And yeah, I mean, this happens all the time. I've had judges actually help myself as a defense attorney
yeah.
against the prosecutors. So much love to the judges for all those times. Well, you've seen this, right, Nick, where the judge will come in the room and say to the prosecutor, it's almost as if the judge is arguing your case. So am I now being a hypocrite where I want it both ways? I mean, maybe, but listen, we're just trying to defend the constitutional rights of all the listeners out there, because we love the Constitution, right, Craig? We love the Second Amendment, especially. Oh, yeah. Love the Second Amendment. We love all the Constitution as a whole there. So we love our vets. Big shout out to all the vets, first responders, all the men and women in the military and their families, and all the moms out there who are in the military, who are away from their families. There you go. Who are first responders, who are in law enforcement, putting their lives on the line, and all the nurses. I don't think nurses and first responders get enough love for what they do for us. So there's a lot of moms out there that do those jobs too. Yeah. But
if there's any
great conversation, by the way.
Yeah, and if there's any moms out there that work at Big B Coffee, where I get my Americanos every morning, I just got to say thank you, because they have the best Americanos.
Yeah, my buddy Matt owns that location, by the way.
Does he?
Yeah, big shout out to Matt there.
All right.
Yeah, I'm saying all across the board, they got the best Americanos, but that's me.
Not sure what that is.
We got to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, but we'll wrap the show up after this.
This is attorney Todd L. Levitt here to tell you about my favorite one and only, the only one I go to, M66 Cannabis Company, recreational dispensary right here in the great state of Michigan, central northern Michigan, located at 3023 20 Mile Road, Beaverton, Michigan, between Big Rapids and Mount Pleasant, Michigan. M66 Cannabis Company is frickin' fantastic, folks, from pipes to edibles to flower, 24 different strains. The staff, all locally hired, general manager, knowledgeable, community-oriented, family-owned. Be sure to check out M66 Cannabis Company, Beaverton, Michigan.
Hey, this is Mike Messina, general manager at M66 Cannabis Company out of Barrington, Michigan, off of M66. And I want to personally invite you down to M66 Cannabis Company to come peruse our wide selection of different products, 18 different strains of flower, 29 different types of cartridges, and so much more. We've got everything that you could possibly need, and a very well-trained and compassionate staff there to help you find exactly what you're looking for.
That's M66 Cannabis Company, located at 3023 20 Mile Road. That's 3023 20 Mile Road. My favorite recreational dispensary here in Michigan. Be sure to stop in and tell the folks when you get there you heard it right here on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Turning it and burning it and coming back with Winger. I hope, Craig, you're letting that song play out, because you got to let it play past the chorus on that one. And big shout out, by the way, to all my friends at Neat and Green. what a great landscaping company, Neat and Green. There's so many great men out there and women who work so hard across the board, across the country, making sure that our houses and businesses just look freaking fantastic.
Neat and Green. Interesting name. So
happy Mother's Day once again to Jen, my mom, all the moms out there, and the mother raccoon in my back who gave birth to 3 cute baby raccoons that keep destroying my bird feeders. So
I'm sorry about that.
Just want to say that for the record.
Speaking of things getting destroyed, so we were talking about the tornado. Yeah. The tornado that hit Portage, my hometown. I got a picture and found out from my cousin that my childhood house, we moved there in 1979 when I was 9 years old until I graduated high school. My mom sold it about 25 years ago, flattened, destroyed in the tornado, man. Which is crazy.
Everybody okay?
Oh yeah, no, everybody's fine. I don't know who the people who live in the house. There was only like 7 injuries.
That's still an eerie feeling.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. She sent a picture and said, your house is flattened. And I'm like, wow.
Oh, that's horrible.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine all those people, what they've been through?
I know.
I mean, even down south. But yeah, that's the whole. So Portage got hit hard. I saw that on national news.
Yeah, that was an EF2 that went through. And also that FedEx facility there in Portage got like half the building got disintegrated. People were trapped in there. But yeah, it's crazy.
That's so scary. I mean, Mother Nature is she's strong. She is strong.
And it brings back weird memories because it was around this time 44 years ago in 1980 there was a tornado that went right through downtown Kalamazoo and went through Bronson Park and pulled up a bunch of trees, knocked the back off of the Gilmore Brothers department store building, killed 5 people. And horrible. It was in May 13th, 1980. So this is like right around that same kind of time. And I remember I was a kid and I was in elementary school at the time. Just weird. So weird. But yeah, hopefully our prayers for everyone who's in Portage. And,
for sure.
Rebuilding and everything. So, yeah. But Todd, I hate to break the news to you, but the show of all shows is done.
Craig, I just want to, thank you and everyone at Black Diamond Group, all our sponsors, M66, big shout out. It's a great highway there. And my mom, Jen, everybody out there. Hannah, who just had a baby daughter, happy Mother's Day to you. And Haley, who just had a baby son. And, Nick Klaus, thanks for coming on the show. We love you at Levitt Law Firm right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. You're just turning it and burning it and representing people who call our office with such advocacy and such vigorous defense of their issues. But we want everybody out there to have a healthy, happy, safe Mother's Day. We're not here for a long time. What are we here for, Nick and Craig?
We're here for a good time, Todd.
Yeah,
absolutely, how about you, Nick?
100%. Yeah, I'm here for the Constitution and a good time.
Absolutely. So without further ado, take us out with a little wiener.
The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Clark Modular Homes of Mount Pleasant, Rusty Gold Antiques in Everett, Chad Malley Well Drilling of Rosebush, Clear Vision Windows, Siding and Roofing of Midland, and attorney Todd L. Levitt.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.